if I had to start over with no properties, no team, and no experience, this is exactly what I would do to buy my first rental property smarter, faster, and with fewer mistakes. Hey, I'm Dustin. If you're new to my channel, I've bought over 100 rental properties in a 3.5 year time frame while working a demanding full-time career. And so if you're interested in learning about rental property investing, this is what I talk about on this channel. So for this video, I'd like to dive into the exact process I would follow to buy my first rental property, knowing what I know now. I did a lot of things backwards, made a lot of mistakes, had no idea what I was doing as I was stumbling through that first property, and it was quite overwhelming. If you are looking to buy your first rental property or maybe started in the process, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But here I'd like to offer a framework, really like what you should focus on first, and give you a step-by-step basis on what this looks like, to not make it easy, but to make it simple and understand the process and where you should go and when. And so first, I'd like to start with something that may seem trivial. You've probably heard this before in doing other things, maybe your job or looking into other businesses, but you really need to start with why. Why do you want to buy a rental property in the first place? This is one of the things I actually got right before I started buying rental property. And the reason this is so important, real estate investing is not hard. It is simple, but it's not easy. And so you'll have, especially if it's your first deal, things are going to go wrong. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to be frustrating. You're going to wonder, hey, is this for me? Am I making the right decision? And you have to have a really strong why to get you through some of those things. And for me, long before I had a wife and any kids, my vision or my why was I wanted to be able to spend an abundant amount of time with my wife and kids once they were here. And so I started building this foundation of real estate and rental property long before that time came. And now I get to spend ample amounts of time with them, which is really, really awesome. And it's still what continues to drive me to want to be better in business and real estate and all the things. So I encourage you, before you put your first offer on a property, just give yourself some time to reflect on, hey, why am I doing this? Why I'm going to take these risks and get involved in the first place? And when things get tough and you make some mistakes, you won't quit. You'll lean back on that why and figure out how to get to the next step and make forward progress. The next piece, this is coincidentally also something else I got right, and it's a big part of my personality, of why I've probably had success in real estate in the first place, but it's learning, educating yourself. I would recommend listening to some podcasts, maybe like Bigger Pockets. They're known for real estate investing, especially if you're just getting started. A book, you may or may not heard of this before, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's one of the first books I read where I actually discovered I like to read. I wasn't forced to read these things in school that I didn't know about or didn't care about. And so it really just takes you through the process of the mindset of somebody looking to be a business owner and investor. And so you can educate yourself as much as possible to give yourself a little bit confidence to take the next step and get involved in real estate in general. So again, Bigger Pockets, read some cool books. And then this YouTube channel, of course, we'll talk about how to get involved in real estate investing, buying rental property, specifically if you have a demanding job and a demanding career. The next piece of this, once you figured out your why and you're learning, we need to figure out where we are going to invest. Are you going to invest in your backyard, same city, same state, different state? For me, I was all over the place on this when I first got started. I invested in my state, in Louisiana, but I was looking in all kinds of places, all kinds of cities, all across the state with really no rhyme or reason why. I was just excited to look and try to find some deals. So what I recommend for you is figure out where you would like to invest. If it's in the same city, if it's a certain distance away from you, if it's out of state, if you live in a really expensive market. Understanding that does a couple things for you. One, it gives you clarity and focus on where you should be looking and sourcing deals. And secondly, it gives you the opportunity to really master the market that you're going to be working in. That way you understand when things come up available for sale, you will know pretty quickly if it's something that you want to move on based on where it's located and the structure of a potential deal. So for me now, I've really zoned in a few markets around me, and I invest about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour all around where I live. And I've gotten very familiar with these markets, which has been a game changer for me for moving quickly and then finding out what I want to add to my real estate portfolio. And then so after we have where, we need to figure out what. This is also another huge mistake I made and wasted a whole lot of time looking at tons of different things that I had no business looking at. So when you're figuring out what, I'm really talking about the asset class. What's really great about real estate investing is there is a lot of different avenues you can go to invest in and make money. But as a beginner, it can also be quite overwhelming. So when I first got started, I was looking at single family homes, small multifamily homes, Airbnbs, commercial properties, and everything in between, which each one of these has their own deal structure, their own things you need to look out for, and their own way of generating income. And so if you try to look at all of these on the jump, you will get really confused, overwhelmed, and probably make some considerable mistakes when you go to buy a property. So what I recommend you do is pick an asset class that is interesting to you and that you can spend some time learning and mastering. You don't have to stay with this one forever, but it'll allow you to get in the game, get specific, and get some wins under your belt before you move into other asset classes. So for me, I started off predominantly with single family homes and small multifamily homes like duplexes and fourplexes. This allowed me to understand my market and really focus in on just those few things. And then also how to run numbers and how to look at these things and what makes them a great deal in the first place. And so I definitely encourage you to pick an asset class, stick with it for a little bit until you buy your first few deals. And then if you have aspirations to venture off, you can definitely do that and build your portfolio with whatever you want. Now we have, single family homes, multifamily, small multifamily, large multifamily, commercial buildings, had some Airbnbs, but it didn't start there. I started analyzing all these deals and it got very, very crazy. So pick an asset class, stay with that, and that'll serve you well. And then, so once we have an asset class narrowed in and we have all of the other things that we just talked about, the next piece is figuring out how. How are you going to fund and finance these properties? Are you going to fund it with your own cash as far as down payments? Are you going to bring on some partners? Are you going to use bank loans? What is that going to look like? I will tell you, this is something that I didn't do when I first got started, and I was very reactive. So when I put in a deal, I had to figure out financing if I got the deal accepted, and it was very stressful, and it really slowed me down. So after maybe my first couple of deals, I really changed the structure and how I did things. And then I actually got pre-qualified, learned from the banks that I was going to invest with and get loans with. And I did all of that long before I ever put an offer on a property. And once I did that, I was able to move incredibly fast. Once I put an offer in, it got accepted. And matter of fact, that was how I won a lot of these deals, because I had everything dialed in, ready to go. I could make offers quickly and close quickly, which put me ahead of maybe some properties that had multiple offers on. And I was investing in a time when I first started investing, in 2020, when the pandemic was running wild and the real estate market was absolutely insane. So that allowed me to have a competitive advantage to be able to go out and make offers and move quickly to close these deals. And so figure that piece out. Really two things specifically. Figure out where the money is going to come from if you need down payments. So you, yourself, partners, what that looks like. And then secondly, who you're going to work with to finance this, if it's bank loans. What I recommend if you go the bank loan route is work with small local banks and specifically focus on commercial loans. This allows you to not have all the red tape of like government loans like FHA and different things like that. And also it allows you to have your entity like an LLC own the properties and not have to be put in your personal name. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that. Maybe I'll save that for another video, but figure that piece out with the how and how you'll finance it. And then the other piece, I guess, of how that works hand in hand with financing is understanding how to run numbers on a deal, what a bank wants to see, and what makes it an attractive investment that the bank will loan you money for. And so if you don't know anything about that or you need some help and guidance, check the link in the description. I have a real estate investing calculator that I use that'll show you how to run numbers on a deal in just a few minutes and understand, one, if you should make an offer on it, and two, what makes it attractive to send to the bank and know with confidence that they'll finance it. So again, link in the description if you want some help with that. And then so once we have the how, the last thing I'll leave you with is the who. So specifically, who's going to be a part of your team as you're going to get this thing started? So what I recommend, you don't have to have your whole team. Matter of fact, you probably won't, especially if you're getting started and it's your first rental. Start with the easy wins. Find yourself a real estate a real estate agent, specifically a real estate agent that specializes with investment properties. They are very different breeds from somebody that's going to find you a property, a home to live in for yourself, or find you an investment property that is really more where's it located, how much you can rent for, and the numbers. Two very different agents there. So find yourself somebody that can be a great agent for you to source deals. Also, if you can find yourself a good wholesaler, I met a wholesaler that I work with to this day from my first real estate agent that I worked with. But you can find these folks by just asking around in your market or go and find Facebook groups wherever you're going to invest. And typically you can find wholesalers pretty quickly there. And really the next piece or the part of the team I want to talk through is asking yourself if you're going to use a property manager or not to manage your rentals. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I made when I first got started. We tried to do everything on our own, meaning manage the property, rehab them, and I didn't really know much about any of those things, and it really slowed me down and costed me a lot of money. So if you're going to use a property manager or you have a desire to do that, which I do recommend, you can start asking around before you buy your first property on who does property management, and then you can start to interview them, get to know them and how they do business. And that'll help you when you close your property or your first rental to put them into play to be a part of your team. And so hopefully you found all of this valuable. These are the things and the steps I wish I had when I was first getting started, because I stumbled through my first few deals, was very reactive, had no idea what I was doing. And again, I made a lot of mistakes that I would not have made today if I was just getting started. So, if you found this video valuable and you're looking to invest in rental property, consider subscribing to my channel. I post content each week on buying rentals as a person that is very busy with a demanding career. And if you thought this was at all valuable, none of this would be possible if you don't get the first piece of this right, which you can find in this video somewhere on this screen to start this whole process. So thanks for watching. This video is a wrap. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.